Today is the perfect reason why we have these afternoon Q&As, because I record the solo shot in the morning, and a lot of times things can change by the time we get to lock at 7 p.m. And we had that happen for today because Sandia Contra this morning was not confirmed as a starter for Miami, thought it might happen, wasn't confirmed then. It is confirmed now. And that does change some things for this slate for today. It does alter the way we view, salaries and stuff like that. So a good amount to discuss, and also a pretty tough slate in general. So let's dive on in and get you set for this 5-game slate. Welcome on into the FanDuel Live Q&A. That's right here on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter channels. My name is Jim Sanas. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to take your questions for the next half an hour, no matter where you are watching. You can get those questions in Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Get them in. We'll answer them live here on air to get you set for tonight's slate. Let's start things off here with the thing that did change this morning. Let's start with Savan. John will get to you in a second, but Savan asking, can I use Sandia Contra as my pitcher for single entry? I think you can, Savan, because Alcantara, I would say, from a talent perspective, is probably the most talented pitcher on the slate. He's facing the Mets, not a massive threat to a righty, a 92 WRC plus. Alcantara has been using more fastballs and sliders and fewer sinkers over his past 5 starts. And in that time, he has a 28% strikeout rate, 29% fly ball rate. We always love a guy who uses fewer sinkers. Alcantara's been doing that, and he's been successful. I think Alcantara is the most talented pitcher. The reason I might not go him for single entry, Savan, is because I do still want to stack Coors Field. The one downside of having Alcantara pitch over Zach Thompson is that I was okay stacking the Mets. The Mets did give us a lot of salary savings. Now we don't really have that as much. We can still get salary savings via the Pirates and the Cubs, but the lower salaried options are a bit thinner than they were this morning. So that's the one pushback on Alcantara. He is the highest salary pitcher on the slate at $10,500. I still think he's a great tournament option, but I think for single entry, my favorite guy might still be Eduardo Rodriguez. He is $8,200. High strikeout matchup. He has a good ceiling. The floor is not good for Rodriguez because he's super inconsistent, but the ceiling is there. So for me, Savan, in single entry, I would go at Rodriguez, but I think you definitely can go Alcantara. I think that's definitely okay. He's good enough to justify that. For me personally, I think I'll be going with Rodriguez. And the reason I want to go Rodriguez relates to John's question. How would you stack the Rockies for tonight? And the reason that I want to get there is because I do think both sides of this Coors Field game are pretty good. The Rockies facing Tuki Toussaint, the Braves facing Chichi Gonzalez, and I like both sides of this match. Prefer the Braves over the Rockies, but I do think that both sides do grade out pretty well. Let's refresh here and see if the Rockies have their lineup in. And I do want to see what this lineup looks like, because we've not seen them, I don't think, with a DH or without a DH, with Ryan Tapia being back. Yeah, because they were in Texas when Tapia came back, and so they were able to keep Connor Joe in there. I think Connor Joe has played well enough to stay in there despite Tapia being back. If Connor Joe is in there, I want to use him. He's just not projected to be in there based on the projected starting orders that FanDuel has here. I really hope he plays, and I think that there's a good chance that he will, because I think he's earned that personally. So let's go over here and let's put in Rodriguez as let's do Alcantara to see how much we can do, even if we assume that we're putting him in there. Trevor Story is $3,600. I want to get there. He's been a lot better recently, a lot more hard contact this month. So I'll put Story in there. Let's go over here and check out the Rockies numbers. Again, I really hope Joe plays. If he does, I'm probably just going to lock him in. Elias Diaz could be a good option with Alcantara because he's $2,700, shown a lot of power recently. Let's sort here by plate appearances. Okay. So Joe has a 168 ISO versus righties, 700 to 255, but a ton of strikeouts in there. So either Joe or Hilliard should play. One of those guys will. Tapia would be the other option there. Tapia is at 108, but 15 stolen bases. So still some upside there for sure. As far as other guys here, I still like Ryan McMahon. I know he's not been as much of a force as he was previously, but still a pretty good hitter. Elias Diaz is 221. Okay, so let's scroll over here. I think given the salaries, I'm okay with going Diaz over Crone for the catcher/first base spot. I think Cron's well worth $3,900. But if I'm going with Alcantara, I think I do need to be a bit more salary conscious, which means that Diaz grades out pretty well. Then we'll go with McMahon at second base. I think that if we assume Joe plays and bats leadoff, this is a pretty good lineup, good stack to have in there for the Rockies. I do think you can make it work with Cron and Alcantara. It does mean you have to scramble elsewhere, but you can probably make that work. So maybe you go Diaz over Joe to save $400, something like that. But I think that these five guys, Cron, McMahon, Story, Joe, and then Diaz, all guys I would really like to use for today. So the Rockies, to me, John, a really good option. Savon is asking for the best value hitter, the best lower salary guy. I think that Diaz, we just talked about him, $2,700, good power at Coors Field. Brendan Rodgers is for some reason $2,700. Didn't see that before. He has a 131 ISO versus right. He's been playing really good baseball recently. So Rodgers is up there. Diaz is up there. I'm guessing none of the main Braves are going to check in as values, but they didn't get a bump for going to Coors, which they should have. Jock Peterson's $2,900. So if there's no Ozzy Albies and Peterson bats leadoff again for $2,900, that's an unreal type value play. So Peterson, Diaz, Rodgers, all good value plays. Joe, not technically a value at $3,100, but I would say he's pretty undersalaried. The other teams that we might be looking at for value today don't have the lineup out. That's probably going to be the Cubs and the Pirates. Let's pull up the Cubs lineup here because I do think that they're at least kind of interesting, specifically the top four guys here. Unfortunately, none of them, are quote unquote value plays, but Happ is $3,000. Still be okay with those guys. And I'm sure the Pirates might give us some too. But I think to me, Savon, I want to look at Diaz, Rodgers, and Peterson as potentially being good options out at Coors Field. Savon is asking if there are any under the radar stacks. I don't know. I mentioned Mike Minor this morning as being like an option for pitcher. And I don't think that's the worst idea in the world because he can go deep. But now that we have Alcantara, I can easily toss him out of my player pool and maybe consider some Cleveland stacks. So looking at guys like Franmil Reyes, Harold Ramirez just came back yesterday, Ahmed Rosario, Jose Ramirez. Maybe Cleveland could grade out decently as a stack against Mike Minor. But it's hard to be under the radar here, given how obvious it is that Coors Field is the top option for today. Matthew on Facebook says, woo, Arizona, FanDuel finally live. Welcome, Matthew. Good to have you in the club. Excited to have you along for the ride. Congratulations. Let's go win you some money to build that bankroll now that FanDuel is in Arizona. DJ, Tristan McKenzie thoughts. Think he's a very talented pitcher. I do like his matchup as well. The concern that I had, DJ, is the pitch count because McKenzie is coming off the IL. He did miss effectively the minimum amount of time. It's possible it could have been like hey, let's rest this dude. We're playoff contention. Let's kind of give him a rest. But either way, he was on the IL for a shoulder injury, which is a concern for a pitcher. So if you gave me McKenzie with no IL stint, I would say line him up. I'm a bit worried, though, given that he was on the IL. So I think that is enough where I'm okay probably missing out on him. I like Alcantara. I like Rodriguez. I like Carrasco. McClanahan's very, very, very risky, but also still an option. So I'm okay missing out on McKenzie tonight just because that pitch count does worry me. Savon, how'd you rank the Mets? Miami. How would you rank Miami? They're facing Carlos Carrasco. I don't really want to stack against Carrasco with a team this bad. I still think that Carrasco is at least an option for DFS, despite the fact I could move him down comfortably with Alcantara being available. He has decent peripherals. He held the Giants in check last week, and they are a much better offense than Miami. Carrasco's at home. Miami's really bad. So I know Carrasco is inconsistent and can get blown up, but Miami, not a team I like very much for today. Let's talk to DJ. Would you play Frank Schwindel for tonight? Yes, I am very okay with that because they're facing Mitch Keller. Keller, since he came back up, has still been letting up a lot of hard contact. As you can see here, a 51% hard hit rate allowed for Keller in his 5 starts since he came back up for the Pirates. That's a lot of hard contact. So the Cubs don't have a very deep lineup, but they've got dudes, individual guys who can hit. And I think specifically, it's the projected top 4 guys here. Wisdom, Ortega, Schwindel, and Happ. All 4 of those guys are viable as one-offs, or you could stack those 4 guys specifically and hope the bottom of the order does something. If they can do something, that'll allow Ortega, Schwindel, Happ, and Wisdom to be okay plays. So I would say the Cubs are in play for a stack, DJ. I think you're a Cubs fan, if I recall correctly. If you want to roll out those top 4 guys, I'm not opposed. I think that they have enough juice, small enough slate, good enough matchup to justify going with them. I think that's a fine option for today, but Schwindel specifically, yeah, for sure, as a one-off option there. Jade, who do you think will have the most strikeouts tonight? I like this one. Let's go over here and check out what the sheet says. So if we want strikeouts, we want a high strikeout pitcher who goes deep in games and is facing a high strikeout team. To me, there are 2 primary guys who fit that mold. Those 2 guys are Eduardo Rodriguez and Sandia Contra. So that's why, to me, Jade, I think that our focus at pitcher should be around those 2 guys. Rodriguez was my number 1 option before we had Alcantara at our disposal. I think you could go back and forth depending on what you want to do with your stacks. For me, I'm probably still going Rodriguez because, I don't know, I've lost on him plenty this year. Why not dig the hole even deeper? But I think that it's a good matchup for him against a high strikeout team, the Rays. They're a good offense, but they're not as good against lefties as against righties. So I would still go Rodriguez over Alcantara personally. So I think that to me, it's Rodriguez 1, followed by Alcantara 2. And both those guys do go deep in games. If you're trying to project out actual like strikeouts, they're going to grade out pretty well. I'd probably give the slide to Rodriguez there, but we'll see. I think that they're both pretty good options in terms of trying to see who will have the most strikeouts for tonight. DJ says, yes, but I am a disgusted Cubs fan this year. I get it. We were driving through Illinois a couple of weeks ago, and it was like, oh, there's a Chris Bryant billboard. Oh, hey, there's another Chris Bryant billboard. Kind of weird to see all that in, I think it was on 294 potentially. So the ghosts of the old Cubs still very much present, at least on 294 in Illinois. DJ says, is Tukey risky? Yes. Yes. He's at Coors Field. He is pretty volatile anyway, walks a lot of guys, lets up a lot of hard contact. So very risky. I probably won't get there tonight from a pitching perspective. I'd much rather stack against him because, as you can see here, there aren't a lot of warm weather games tonight. Coors, the second warmest game behind the Kansas City game, definitely the best park factor. So I would rather stack there. That means I'll avoid Toussaint and I'll probably stack against him quite a bit. DePrince on YouTube is asking, did you make home run calls? I had not made them today on this show, but I made them this morning, and both them were at Coors Field. The 2 home run calls I went with were Freddie Freeman and Elias Diaz. Elias Diaz being the fun one, whereas Freeman was more the chalky one. I'm good sticking with those for right now because I think that both pitchers stayed the same. I really like both those offense in terms of stacking. I think both matchups could be ones that are quite dinger friendly. So to me, home run calls for today will be Freddie Freeman, Elias Diaz. And if you want to get your home run calls into Prince, would love to hear yours as well. Savon, can you rate the following teams for stacks? Boston, Tampa Bay, or Cleveland, or Kansas City stack? Boston's pretty low against McClanahan. He does let up a lot of hard contact, but he's a good pitcher. It's hard for me to use him as a pitcher tonight because Boston's so good against lefties. Super low strikeout team. I will say, though, given all the COVID guys they've got out with Xander Bogaerts out and Kike Hernandez out, the lineup is not as strong as it usually is. So that could be an opening for McClanahan to be a pretty good pitcher. I don't want to stack against him. I would rather stack the Red Sox than the Rays, though, against Rodriguez. Rodriguez does a really good job suppressing our contact, keeps the ball on the ground a pretty decent amount. So if I'm choosing between those 2 teams, I'd stack Boston over Tampa Bay due to the hard contact, but really not super interested in stacking either. As far as Cleveland or Kansas City, I would rather stack Cleveland against Mike Minor, lower strikeout guy, does let up a bit more hard contact. So that's the main reasoning there. I know, again, I mentioned him on the solo shot this morning as being a pitching option. That was before we had Alcantara. So I'm pretty good shoving Minor out of consideration and going just with Rodriguez, Alcantara, and maybe some Carrasco for tonight in terms of a pitcher. So of those options, Savon, I would say that Cleveland is number 1. I would say that maybe the Royals too, just under just because McKenzie may not be at full health, something like that. So maybe you could justify going there. That could be an option. But then I go Boston and then Tampa Bay. Savant is asking if we can get a Devers home run. It is tough because McClanahan does have such a high strikeout rate. He does keep the ball on the ground a decent amount, but he does let up hard contact. So, I mean, Devers is a tremendous hitter. I would not talk you out of it, but those are the downsides. High strikeout rate for McClanahan and a low fly ball rate. DJ, need someone with minimum salary. Do you like Jonathan Arauz on Boston? Let's go over here and see where he's batting. He's batting ninth. Minimum salary, that's pretty tough. Let's see what Danny Santana's salary is for today. Maybe we can talk ourselves into him instead. And old Danny is minimum salary. I'd probably prefer Santana over Arauz just because Santana has done something in the majors at some point in his career and batting a little bit higher in the order. So if you're looking at the Red Sox lineup, I would say that's probably where I would wind up looking. Let's check out the Marlins lineup here. Because Carrasco is like, I think he's solid and I don't want to stack against him, but we can't write off everybody here. Isan Diaz is $2,200. So it doesn't quite fit there. Jesus Sanchez is $2,400. So no min salary guys there. Maybe we can get, no, I guess the Kansas City guys are facing McKenzie, and McKenzie's pretty good. Maybe we can get a Cleveland dude at a lower salary. See what Yu Chong's salary is. Andres Jimenez. Nope. Yeah. I think it's probably, if you need someone who is at minimum salary exactly, probably going to be Danny Santana as being your favorite option for today. I just don't see a whole lot else right now that's popping, but let's just see. Yeah, because the main teams I want to stack are not out yet. So I think that's probably the main options. Okay, so you did ask about Hoyjun Parks. Let's look at him, because I do think that is actually an okay team to look at overall, just because the matchup is pretty good for them. So don't mind taking a look at them. So let's dig into the numbers here. Specifically, I want to look at the minor league numbers because that's our biggest sample on Parks so far. 240 ISO in AAA when he was at the Yankees. With the Pirates, very small sample. So don't care too much about that. In the majors, 74 plate appearances, 6.4% barrel rate. Not a lot of hard contact. I would say, let's see what Danny Santana has done so far this year. I think he's had some time in AAA because he was outright off the 40-man roster, I believe, at one point. Let's just check out, see what he has done overall. Maybe we can talk ourselves into feeling better about him. All right, let's click on minor leagues, and only 32 plate appearances there. Did it for some power at least. So I would say if you want a low, like a min salary option, I would go with Santana over Park for today. Savon, thoughts on this lineup? So I wouldn't. I try to shy away from giving like full thoughts on full lineups because like I don't want to like give away lineups, stuff like that. But I would say if we're going to talk about McKenzie specifically, I would be very worried about the pitch count there. Again, I don't know how far he'll go into the game because he's coming off the IL. It is a shoulder issue. So, Savon, I would probably try to deviate elsewhere at pitcher. And if you're looking for someone with a bit lower salary, I would say that Rodriguez does grade out better for me than McKenzie does. He's $600 lower. So if you want to spend in that range, I'd probably get down to a Rodriguez just because I'm really worried about pitch count for McKenzie as he comes off the IL. Maybe, again, it was just a rest thing and he can be fully good to go, but Cleveland, nothing to play for here. They obviously have big aspirations for McKenzie in the future, so probably don't want to run him down too much. So I would say McKenzie makes me nervous. Again, if he were full go, like there were no health concerns, McKenzie would definitely be a good option. And it could look stupid, if he goes out there, throws 80 pitches, but has 7 strikeouts or whatever. But I just think that given the concerns around pitch count, I'm okay being a little bit lower on him for today. One team we have not really discussed so far is the Atlanta Braves facing Chichi Gonzalez, and that's going to be a good stack for sure. Just depends on who winds up playing, because again, we don't really know the status of Ozzy Albies, which means that does dictate a lot of stuff, because if he's not in there, Jock Peterson is probably going to hit leadoff, because I think he was there yesterday, so we could get Jock Peterson $2,900. Let's pull up the Braves numbers versus righties, see what they've done, and see how we should rank them. Let's assume for right now that Albies doesn't play because it didn't look good when he first got hurt. Obviously, it's been a good prognosis so far, but let's just assume he does not play. Freeman's going to be number 1. I would say if Jock is leadoff, he would be number 2. He might even be number 1. Now, it would be Freeman 1, Jock number 2, probably leaning towards Austin Riley 3. Adam Duvall, if he plays, would be up there because the power is so good. And then let's see what Duvall's salary is, and also that of Jorge Soler. Duvall's probably going to hit like 7th or 8th, though, I guess. Maybe I should put Soler above him and put Swanson above him. Let's go down here. Boop. Yeah, Soler's 36, Duvall's 35, Dansby 35 as well. Check out Travis d'Arnaud's numbers since he came back. He is up to 104 plate appearances, 133 ISO, so McKay being a bit lower on him. So I would say Freeman 1, Jock 2 if we assume he's leadoff with no Albies for today. I would go Riley 3. I would go Dansby 4, Soler 5, Duvall 6 as the ranking of those guys if we assume that there is no Albies for today. Savon is asking, would it be smart to stack against Tristan McKenzie for today given the low pitch count coming back from the IL? I think on such a small slate, Savon, you can justify it based on the exact line of thinking you laid out there where, it is a shoulder injury coming out the IL. I still think he'll probably go about 80 pitches because he didn't miss a lot of time, but I think you can justify it. It's not something that I'm actively trying to get to, though, I would say. Just because I respect McKenzie a lot as a pitcher and don't really want to stack against him in general. So it's kind of, I have to assume that he's not right. And I want him to be okay. I mean, this is the optimistic thinking, but so I probably won't get there. The line of thinking is okay at such a small slate. A lot of things can happen. So I think that it's not out of play. I'm not going to say absolutely not. I would say absolutely not to the Mets today against Contra. I would not say absolutely not to stacking the Royals, but not something I'm probably going to get to myself. DJ, okay, DJ has his home run calls in. He likes CJ Cron at Coors Field. He likes Brandon Nimmo against Alcantara. He likes Peterson at Coors Field, Michael Taylor facing McKenzie, and Edward Olivares. I don't think he's in the lineup. Oh, he is. He's batting 7th. Okay, so Edward Olivares batting 7th. Olivares is someone who I like from a talent perspective, has a lot of power he showed in AAA. Emmanuel Rivera, kind of the same thing. So I think if you made me do a one-off on Kansas City, it might be Olivares just because he is a lower salary. It means I'm not using a lot of cap to use a guy facing McKenzie. So maybe Olivares might grade out well there. So I like the Olivares call. Could be kind of fun with that one. Not in on Nimmo just because Alcantara is so good at suppressing fly balls. DJ's asking thoughts on Minor. I was in on him this morning when we didn't have Alcantara as a pitcher or didn't know we had Alcantara as a pitcher. So I had him number 3. I'm going to move him down to 4. And that's probably low enough where I'm just not going to use him. I think to me, the pitching rankings today are Rodriguez, Alcantara, Carrasco. I probably should have McClanahan higher just because he's good enough where he could grade out really well and he could be the highest scoring guy in the slate. Just such a tough matchup. Lets up a lot of hard contact. That's scaring me off there for the most part. So Mike Minor, I think right now, based on the way the slate looks, I'd rather stack against him than use him as a pitcher. Kenneth, do you believe in the theory that away teams don't play well the first game at Coors Field? I think that there's some science behind that, Kenneth. I thought I may have read something in that before, but I could be totally off base. So if someone out there has a link handy to something like that, feel free to put it in the chat or just say, hey, Google this. But I thought I could be wrong, Kenneth, but I think that there is actually some science behind that. So I wouldn't be shocked. I personally still stack it because it's still Coors Field. So, and it's a great matchup against Chichi Gonzalez. The Braves are a very good offense, very deep offense. So personally, despite that being potentially true, I do still stack there, but it's a good thing to consider, Ken. It's just because they're going to be very popular tonight. So it's something to keep in mind for sure. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay. So both Michael and Craig have said that the Colorado lineup is out. Let's see if our boy Connor Joe is batting leadoff. Let's cross our fingers. And he is. Let's party in the USA, everybody. Connor Joe leadoff. Oh, buddy. Let's ride. So let's go over here and let's build out this Coors stack with Connor Joe, our wonderful friend, staying in the leadoff spot. This is a victory for people who like good baseball. Let's go with Connor Joe here. Let's put Brendan Rodgers at second base. Boom. Let's put Trevor Story at shortstop. And then we're deciding, do we want to go with Crone, McMahon, or Diaz? The answer is yes. I want to go with all three. If I'm picking one in this Contra lineup, maybe I just go with Diaz. Save that salary, give myself flexibility with my Brave stack. Kind of don't mind that. So I think that, like, again, the guys batting 1 through 7 in this lineup are all super in play for tonight. I love Rodgers as a value play. I love Diaz as a value play. Joe is undersalaried, so kind of dig it. I like that Rockies lineup a lot. Let's party, and we are good to go with that Rockies stack for today. Savant says, I wonder if something like stacking Kansas City with Chicago to be different, or should I just stick with the Coors-filled games? I would say, because everyone will be at Coors Field, Savant, the idea of going elsewhere is good. I would say the Cubs would probably be your best option there in terms of deviating elsewhere. And DJ says the Cubs lineup is out. So let's refresh one more time and see what that Cubs lineup looks like. Ortega, Schwindel, Hap, Wisdom. Sick. Just stack 1 through 4 on the Cubs. Good to go there. I definitely think that's okay. Fine with all of them. Jackie. What's up, Jackie? Welcome back. I need some luck sent my way, please. We're sending good vibes, manifesting a good day for Jackie for today. Let's get Jackie on the board. Let's see here. DJ says, who is leading off for the Rays with Arosa Reyna scratched? Okay. Arosa Reyna has not been scratched here yet, so I don't know yet. I guess we'll see, but that would be a boost to Rodriguez with Arosa Reyna being scratched, kind of regardless of who it is, because it's one less good right-handed bat in that lineup. So either way, the takeaway there, DJ, is arrows up on Rodriguez with Arosa Reyna being scratched. That is all that we have here for today on this FanDuel Live Q&A. But do not forget, we are back here once again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages, taking your questions and getting you set for a jam-packed Friday night slate. Let's pull up the pitchers for tomorrow in case you want to head start on your research. There you go. Starting pitchers tomorrow should be a pretty fun slate. We will see how things break. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in for today. If you have additional questions, check me out on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JimSannes. Jackie was asking, shout out Joy. Yes, indeed. Shout out Joy Affleck, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Joy, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you tonight. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow. This has been the FanDuel Live Q&A.